Good evening. Who sends you to the biggest club in Spain, but then 10 weeks later brings you back again because you forgot your passport and your testicles? It's us, the American Scouser TV Thursday night podcast. ASTV to the cool kids. And if you're a Liverpool fan, you already know we shall be welcoming the prodigal bastard in a couple of weeks as Real Madrid and Liverpool play at Anfield, I believe. I hope, because the reception will be fantastic. I'm joined this evening so far by Brian and Sir Z. Sir Z, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Not too bad. It's a long weekend and I don't actually have to work. So, you know, it's
nice.
All coming up Millhouse. I know. I don't know how that worked out. Miracles do happen to people. Brian, how are you?
Oh, doing great.
That's good. Let's have a look at what we're going to talk about tonight. We will talk about the Champions League draw, of course. And not just Liverpool, but any of the other teams and what they've got facing them. The transfer window coming up at the end of the week on Monday, in fact. Lots of moves to be made. We will concern ourselves with Liverpool mostly, but there's lots of moves from other clubs too. The domino effect may actually happen. We'll talk about tactics, schmactics between Arne Slot's ridiculous response to playing 10 men to Ruben Amorim bringing out his Christmas present from 2017 to try and figure out how to get Manchester United to beat Grimsby, of all places. And from the Toons to the Goons, we'll have a look at ahead to the weekend against Arsenal. But let us begin with the Champions League draw, fellas. I haven't seen it yet. Brian has. Apparently, showbiz rigmarole all round. I believe, from what I've read, heard, and seen, they are renaming the UEFA Champions League to the Zlatan Ibrahimovic Trophy of all trophies, signed by Zlatan Ibrahimovic League. It's always been a show pony, festival of nothingness, but it seems like, and it sounds like, Brian, that it was worse this year.
It was a whole draw. It was, I don't know. Every year right there, these things get more drawn out and more drawn out. I mean, I like the way the Carabao Cup was drawn the other day. Just put the balls in there and come there and tell us who you're playing and move on. This turns into a whole giant production right there where, you know, they had some kind special commercial made for the Champions League draw, was Zlatan Ibrahimovic talking about how the draw was going to happen. Then they gave him some special award. It was just over the top, so over the top. So, and you know, in the culmination of all that draw right there, of course, who we're going to draw? Real Madrid, like we did before. But I just read something really fascinating. So there is a UEFA rule that says that the same home team and away teams cannot be drawn in 2 consecutive years from each other. So looks like that fixture is probably going to get swapped, because it says right there that Liverpool can't be at home against Real Madrid this year because they were the home team last year. So look to see what happens on Saturday right there. But I think there will probably be some kind of flip in this fixture somewhere.
So I just want to stop you there for a second. Just hear through the earpiece, Zlatan Ibrahimovic invented electricity, apparently. Everybody make sure you remember that. Zlatan invented electricity. Brian, so say, let's have a look at the draw itself, actually. So Real Madrid, location to be determined, but I believe that Monaco, we play Marseille. I believe Monaco are playing a game on neutral ground. So maybe that's a possibility as well. They should do it at Everton's ground, just for a laugh. But Real Madrid, obviously, some feeling there in that game. It's a huge game, to be fair and to be honest. It's Liverpool, Real Madrid is always a huge game. But Inter Milan, such heroics last season, but maybe that was their moment and they missed their moment. Atleti, Frankfurt, PSV, Marseille, and then I'm not going to say Karabakh and Galatasaray are easy games, and Galatasaray away is never an easy game at any point in existence. But if you get through the first four, Susie, we should do okay, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I mean that Real Madrid game was guaranteed. As soon as the snake said he wasn't renewing his contract, UEFA already had this game planned, and they probably forgot their own rules about what Brian had just mentioned, because we knew that was going to happen. So that was like a guaranteed fixture. The rest of them, Atletico Madrid. Is that Atletico Madrid or?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. That's probably the toughest out of the lot. I mean, as we saw last year, it really doesn't matter where we finish, other than the financial rewards of it. As long as we finish in the top 8, that's what matters. And PSG is, they showed us that. But I mean, all of them on paper. I mean, the team, we should easily take care of. I think, given the fact, hopefully we get another defender in. But yeah, there's nothing to worry about there. I don't think. Like I said, the only game is the Atletico Madrid game. I think that's the toughest out of that little pot.
Brian, now last year during this tournament we talked about the newness of it and figuring out the formats and all that. But now we've been through a year, and as Suzy quite rightly points out, finishing top did literally nothing for us. So do you think wiser heads will prevail now for this year, and we'll just try and get the bare minimum of points we need to finish in the top 8, and then just play the kids or something like that, to rest players for the weekend games? Because if we're going to finish top and then face PSG, the eventual winners and one of the best teams in Europe right now, we may as well finish 6th or 7th, really, shouldn't we? And maybe see who we get then.
I see. If I'm not correct, they fixed that so that it doesn't happen again right there, because they saw what the results were. I'm not really sure, but I thought they came through and tweaked it so it actually does have a coefficient right there when it goes through, where you're not going to have the first place side drawn against like the third place side or something like that, where it's actually going to come there where you're going to have to go jump back down to the bottom tier of the group. So it should be something like where one will play the winner of the last ranking of the playoff group. So I think hopefully that'll be fixed right there. But then I wouldn't worry. Then after that, we wouldn't really worry about it. I mean, again, right there, I'm not worried about the draw right there. I think that Real Madrid's Real Madrid. I mean, you know what you're going to get with those right there. I mean, Inter right there is a decent fixture, but we've never really had many problems with Inter and all that. I think the ones
except for 1965.
Yes. But I think, like, I'm with Sir Z. I hate playing Atletico Madrid. It's just one of those fixtures I can't stand right there. It's because I know how the tactics, their tactics are, and it's just a drawn out, dirty process, and I just don't like it right there. Other than that, right there, I don't really mind anything else right there. I think that it's we should get through this group right there and not have to go through the playoff groups.
Yeah, I mean that would be a good thing. Suzy, do you think there's going to be so much kind of build up around that Real Madrid game? If things continue the way they are right now for Liverpool defensively, at least, we could be in for maybe a bit of a hard time here. Or do you think that we showed last year, that we are a better team than they are? Maybe not better players individually, but definitely a better team.
For real, yeah, I think we're a better team. I mean, you're looking at attack. I mean, I think attack, even with Wirtz, the European game, I mean, we haven't seen the best of him. I think the European game, the Champions League might suit him more. I think we might see the better of him in regards to the pace of the Champions League. I think the Premier League pace has caught like Wirtz by surprise. Hopefully, if we get Isaac in, that our attacking is going to again be on the levels of the Mane, Bobby, Salah, where it's just going to be the most fair attack. And even with that, Isaac, I mean, Iketika is just showing I've said it on YouTube as well. On the pods that I think he's probably the signing of the summer so far. And when we signed him, I definitely for one wasn't. I was kind of like apprehensive. Wasn't sure what we were going to get out of him. But he's shown he's not just a striker. He connects well with everyone. He brings everyone in. His skills on the ball was just, I can see why Newcastle wanted him, and I'm so glad we got him. And if obviously, along with Isaac, I think our attack, we probably the most feared in Europe, if not the world.
Looking at the draw here, Brian, City have Madrid as well. But they also have Dortmund, Napoli, and Galatasaray too. Is that an easy draw for City, do you think, or do you think City's problems, as we saw against Spurs there the other day, it's not? I wouldn't say they're easy to work out, but there's a lot more flaws in their game than there used to be, and this may be another tricky position for them.
I mean, really, honestly, Real Madrid is the only person who's really toply competitive in that draw right there. I don't rate Napoli anymore. I don't really rate Dortmund that much anymore. I don't think that they're the same Dortmund they had a past right there, where it's competitive with Bayern Munich. They're not that side anymore. I mean, and then don't they also have don't they have Bayer Leverkusen in there too? I think they drew them also, right?
Ten Hag.
They have Leverkusen.
Yeah, so, I mean, again, another easy another rollover. So I mean, again, right there, they have an easy path to get going forward on this group.
So Chelsea have Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Benfica, Ajax, and Napoli and Atalanta. I mean, it's not easy, that one, is it? That's a relatively tough group, or tough lineup of fixtures.
I think it's a fifth. I think out of the four, I think they probably got the hardest in regards to the Champions League draw, because Bayern Munich, they've improved a lot since the company's taken over. Barcelona, obviously, what you're going to get in Barcelona. And Benfica, they're kind of hit or miss, but I think out of the four teams, I think Chelsea have got the hardest draw. City definitely, they couldn't have asked for a better draw. I think last year, that Leverkusen team would have been hardest, but since Ten Hag has taken over, it's they may as well play Man United. It's just they got the easiest round for sure. Arsenal, I think they're on level with us in regards to the teams that they're playing. But Chelsea I think they've got a short straw.
I mean, Arsenal have Bayern Munich, Inter, and Atleti, and that Arsenal Atleti game, Brian, that's looking like it could be the most free kickist, set piecist game in the Champions League history.
Absolutely. But you want to go down the list of draws. You know who else got a pretty bad draw? PSG got a pretty bad draw. I mean, they've got a lot that they have to face on that too. So, I mean, really, both PSG and Chelsea, that's been really rough for both of them.
Yeah, they have Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Newcastle, and Spurs. Let's go a look at Newcastle, seeing as they will be a topic of conversation. You gotta scroll all the way down here. That's how unimportant Newcastle are to the Champions League. Barcelona, PSG, Benfica, Leverkusen. Well, Leverkusen we just talked about. I mean, that's three really tough games.
I'll take that back. Newcastle got the hardest.
I mean,
I completely forgot about them.
Let's say, and we'll talk about this later, but let's say they do lose Isak, and they've got Eddie Howe, who hasn't managed in the Champions League before, right? I haven't woken up in an alternate universe. I mean,
no, he did. Well, no, he managed them the year they ended up bottom. The Champions League year that we weren't in it.
That's right.
Okay, so that's not even a good endorsement, really, is it?
No.
But that I mean, I'm looking at that group of games. That could almost be a Celtic FC under Brendan Rodgers like embarrassment, couldn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. If they lose Isak, I mean, Premier League aside, I worry for them. I'm not sure about this player that they've just bought, and I'm grateful that I have got him because it probably will mean that we get Isak back. Champions League, I don't see. They're not beating Barcelona. They're not beating Paris. I doubt they'll beat PSV. Yeah. Actually, out of all the English clubs, they got the toughest draw.
The Polish Princess says, "I'm so glad we don't need to take an 11-hour flight to Kazakhstan. Number 1 flight in Europe. Very nice." When they lose Isak, not if they lose Isak. Now, Spurs, talking about manager who hasn't coached in the Champions League before. Spurs of Dortmund, PSG, tough one. Villarreal, Frankfurt, Slavia Praha, or Sparta Prague, as I believe they used to call them. Bodo Glimt, Copenhagen. I mean, that is the best draw you could have for your maiden voyage as a Champions League head coach, isn't it?
I mean, I really think that Frank's going to go there and lead them to the playoff spot. I think he's going to go in that group right there. I think that they'll be fine right there. I don't think Newcastle's going to be fine. I think Newcastle is going to even with Isak, which they probably won't have, I still don't think that they're going to get up to that other spot, to the playoff spot. So I mean, I think that they're probably going to be a one and done, and they probably won't make their way back to Champions League for probably a good long time after this.
Now, let me just check who Manchester United. Oh, they don't have anybody.
Shucks.
Now, let's look at how we have been playing so far. And we'll move into the tactical side of things a little bit later. But my feeling is that Arne Slot doesn't let things fester too long. And apparently his dad is on the phone every week telling him how crap he's doing as a tactician. So maybe Mr. Slot Senior has told him the things we've been saying. Maybe he watches this show. Bonjour in Dutch, if you do, Mr. Slot Senior. But I can't imagine that we're going to be as loosey-goosey and disorganized at the back as we have been as the season wears on. Suzy, what do you think of our chances? Let's not get too ambitious of getting to the quarterfinals.
I think we'll get to the quarterfinals. I think we'll get to the semifinals. I think the fact that we have more players that Slot trusts now, I think there might be more rotation, obviously, than last year. And I think that was our downfall. That PSG game, the first PSG game took it out of us, and then the second one just completely killed us, going all the way to extra time and then penalties, and I think we saw that in the Newcastle final game in the League Cup. But that's down to Slot really, not trusting his players and not rotating enough, and. You saw likes of McAllister, even Szoboszlai, just running on fumes, and that's why we lost both them games, the PSG games and the Newcastle games. So I don't think he'll make the same mistakes again. I don't think we go full throttle with this new Champions League format. I think we probably learned from last year, and I still think we get max points, but I don't think we're going to give it everything. Like we did last season, and PSG, you think about that, they won the final and they had to go through the playoff route against Man City, and they got through the hard way. So this Champions League thing, other than the money aspects of it, the reward of finishing as high as you can in that league before the draws, it really doesn't matter where you finish. We got to play it smart if we're trying to win both of them this season.
Brian, what do you think? Semi-final place reasonable, or would you even go as far as saying the final?
I mean, I think there's said right there during a 24-hour pod right there that I thought semifinal was probably about where we were going to go, but with that, and I still think that Slot right there is type of manager that's going to focus primarily on the league, and I think that the league is going to be is our bread and butter, and I'm still in that belief right there. I know we came there and Europe. I know people think that we focus a lot on Europe right there, but I think the league right there is something that we need to keep on. If we get a league double, I'll be more than happy right now with that right there. I mean, again. A domestic cup in the league right there, to me, right there would probably be more than just winning the Champions League. I mean, that's just kind of my opinion on that. I really think that what's going to happen right there with this is the teams that played the Club World Cup are going to suffer come January, February, unless they come there and figure out some way to come there to revitalize their sides. PSG, Chelsea, right there, probably going to be a two. Probably going to really have some issues come about after the mid-season break. And then after that, right there, I think that it was probably a blessing in disguise for City to get knocked out so early in that tournament right there, because I think in the long run, it's probably going to help them out. I'm honestly going there and saying right there, I hate to say it, but I'm favoring City right now for the Champions League at the moment, just because of how they're built and just how that group stage goes. I mean, anything goes when you get to your draws for your when you get to your brackets. But I think right now, I think that they have a clear path to get to that point, and with their fixtures. And I think that that PSG and Chelsea with the fixtures they were given, and plus also coming there and going to the finals of the Club World Cup, it may wind up hurting them in the long run.
Just very quickly, Suzy and Brian, who, if it's not Liverpool, who do you think? Well, I mean, Brian thinks City's got to go all the way. Suzy, who do you think will be the favourites other than Liverpool?
I think it will be PSG. I hear what Brian's saying about the Club World Cup, but you also have to remember the league that PSG play in. It's not as intense as the Premier League, and obviously I think that'll take its toll on Chelsea. I think Chelsea have to make a decision whether they try to win the league or whether they try to win the Champions League. And I think they're going to try and win the Champions League just because of the rewards that come with it. I think PSG, obviously the French league, it's an easy league. So I don't think they'll be affected by the league that much. So I would say it'll be the favourites between us, PSG, and Chelsea.
As they say in France, La Ligue du Agriculture, or Fermier, if you want to be posh about it. So just before we move on to the next thing, you know I love my fantastic names on the Thursday night podcast. So I want to say, first of all, thanks for all the likes, which everybody should be liking and subscribing on everything. Hit the like button or like the hit button if that's what you're into. But Jamie, nice to see Jamie giving us a like as always. A stalwart member of these parts way back when. But I hope I'm saying these names right. Yaya Signal, good to see you here. And Blessings Afrad, it's good to see Blessings Afrad, and probably my favourite name after Steve Claridge, who doesn't join us anymore. And it wasn't the real Steve Claridge, according to him. I don't believe him. Nyan Lang, 2 bottles. Fantastic. I love that kind of stuff. But it's good to see everybody here watching and liking and subscribing, hopefully, so you get more of this crazy madness. So let's move on to this thing here. Now, gentlemen, on the Discord channel, which everybody should be signing up to, as well as liking and subscribing to all the social medias, I'm not convinced, like everybody else is, that we're getting these lads. I'm firmly not convinced that we're going to walk away with both of these, if any of them. I know we all have our little theories about, Newcastle domino effect. They bought a forward, so now they can let Isak go. But only last week we were talking about how the financial structure of the deal is the thing that's holding it back. Isak clearly wants to go to Liverpool, but we don't seem to want to pay what Newcastle want for him. And yeah, that to me is an issue, as we've spoken. And I still feel that our transfer people think they're the smartest guys in the room. And Guehi, I think we need Guehi, but I just don't have any confidence that he's going to be. I just don't have any confidence in the guys doing the jobs now. But what do you say, Brian and Suzy? Do you think, Brian, that we are actually going to walk away with both of them? And then, curse, me and Suzy definitely curse the transfer people for making us have to get extra prescriptions for our cardiac medications. Or are we going to go, oh, those rascals, we should have listened to them all along? Am I wrong to be lacking in confidence?
No, because you're a Liverpool supporter, we always lack confidence. It's kind of what happens to all of us right there. I mean, how many times have we got to the high and got kicked right off the ledge? I mean, it's kind of happened so many times. No, I kind of think that we're going to wind up getting both of them. if I had to prioritize one, it'd be in the back right there. I'm really not liking Konate over the past 2 matches. I just got lots of fears of what's going on to there. So point right there, if we can, they're bringing Gay in right there, that I would probably come there and be willing to come there and pass on Konate for 20. I mean, this is one of the feelings I have right there. If to move him on right there, if he's not going to sign here, you might as well get something out of it right there. Because I mean, all channels are pointing to that he's not signing for us and signing a deal with us. So if we come there and bring that in, move him on. Now, I know Kazi came through last week when I said that I thought if we don't get Isak, it's not the end of the world right there. I know that we're still short, probably about 2 attackers right now. And like the big window right there, and I think that we can't. We saw Rio come on this past weekend and do what he did, and I don't think that Rio is the player that we want to go there to push in that pathway yet. I think that kid still needs to have time right there to go through there. So, in essence, I think that if we bring Isak in right there, I think we're still one short. But I think we're keeping Harvey in that spot right there, and Harvey probably will be reluctant to know that he's probably not going to play much. But he's probably going to be down the pecking order right there of being playing. So I still do think we're going to get both of them, but I still think that we're still short one attacker and possibly one midfielder out of this group.
So let's play a little Brad Pitt Moneyball juggle fest, like that scene in Moneyball where they're trying to trade players simultaneously 5 times over or something. I am not of the mind of most people about the Italian kid that we just signed as defender. I think if you're talented enough, you're able to get on the field. Maybe not for 60-odd games in a season. That's the kind of schedule that will break a player, but certainly to be competing for starting minutes regularly, if not all of the time. If we were to get Guehi, would you be happy to let Konate go now? Or even probably now actually, and then kind of almost rebuild the defense, because Konate not only has he not been convincing, he's been detrimental in the last couple of games. Like he's doing all the bad things that we complain about, but more frequently. And I would much rather have a brand new defender like Guehi, who's a quality experienced player, working with Van Dijk and then trying to build a midfield from there, with the Italian kid doing the Gomez job, but obviously with more fitness right now. Then I would be. In fact, I would have always preferred to keep Sepp van der Berg the way he's playing, not for Brentford, than have not to. I love Gomez, but we just can't keep him fit for one reason or another. But would you do that deal, or do you think we should still hold on to Konate for the experience alone, even if he is on his uppers as a defender?
No, I'll keep Konate all the longest, and it's not often I agree with Saidu, but we're one Van Dijk injury away from a season collapsing, and for all the crap that we're giving Konate, it's only been 2 games. Yes, he lacks competition. I think he knows his place is guaranteed until we get a centre back, because Gomez isn't filling that in right now. Whether his head's turned or whatever it is, at most Madrid aren't going to pay 30 million for him. So I think having Konate in our team is more value for us than getting that 30 million for Madrid. Even if we get Guehi and we have Konate's backup to Guehi, then so be it. Konate needs to prove himself this season just to make it into the World Cup team. So I think with that defense, it's just a number of factors. It's not just the defenders. It's the midfield in front of them that aren't protecting him enough. Gravenberch was missing obviously the first game, and then Szoboszlai had to play on the right. So it's just a whole bunch of circumstances that have made Konate look worse than what he is, I think. But to let him go and bring Guehi in and let Konate go, we're basically back to square one, where we don't have enough depth in that defense. And God forbid anything happens to Van Dijk, who are you going to rely on? What, Guehi and an Italian kid? Because Gomez, you'd be lucky to get 10 games out of him. And then we're back to that season where we're playing Fabinho and central defense, and then playing Hendo in central defence. We'll end up doing that with Szoboszlai and Gravenberch and Leone and Isak. It's we can't take that risk. Not for 30 million. If Madrid came along and offered like 80 million, then all right, yeah, maybe we can have a conversation. But for 30, 40 million, it's not worth ruining our season over.
Let me just challenge you on something there, though, Suzy. Because I think we've seen that not having Gravenberch as the number 6 in that holding role, it has even affected Van Dijk a little bit. But nevertheless, Van Dijk still shows his quality. Konate is like his usual grabbing people, pushing people, and kicking them, which may look like a nice cynical foul when things are functioning. It's almost like he's doing it more like he's either trying to make a point or he's forgotten how to play football. Is Gravenberch not being there? Do you think that excuses the fact that he's just looking dangerous? Like, he looks like a hand grenade on the field in that back four.
Yeah, he's very. It's like he reminds me of Lovren. He just makes stupid decisions, and just like Gravenberch, I think Gravenberch made Konate look good last season. The way Konate made the Snake look good. He's not the defender we thought he was going to be in regards to the future Van Dijk. Definitely not. He's miles off. And as Kaziak say, he's just a bridesmaid. And given a choice, if we can have Matip back all day long, Konate is just not on that level. He hasn't reached his potential. And out of the two defenders that we had the choices out of, between him and Umpinikana or whatever his name is, I think we've got the better end of the deal. But Konate plays like a 35, 40 million defender. He hasn't added value to his play. He makes rash decisions. He might be great for the changing room. It might be great for team morale and so forth. But he's a liability. And with Frimpong out and Kerkers playing like he's never played football before, we don't need that liability. But at the end of the day, we can't afford to not have an experienced defender in that back four in case we do need him. And centre backs, good quality centre backs are hard to find. He is a Premier League quality centre back. It's just not what we wanted him to be. But like I say, for 30 million or 40 million, it's not worth losing.
Brian, instead of looking ahead to the transfer window, let's look a little bit back just on a point that Suzy made there. Do you think there's a case to be made for Kerkez to be removed out of the lineup and Robinson reinstated until Kerkez figures it out? Because he clearly isn't a bad player. He was one of the best left backs in the Premier League last year, hence the pursuit of him. But he played to a specific system in Bournemouth, and we've seen so many times before a player that functions brilliantly in one system will flounder in another until they get it. Is Kerkez one of those, it looks good on paper, but it's going to be a mistake? Or does he just need maybe more training sessions, more coaching from Slot to say, this is what I actually want you to do? And you do most of it, but this is the parts that you need to work on. And until you get that, Robbo's going to be sitting in there, being completely lacking in any sort of English language words whilst he's shouting at people.
I mean, I think Van Bronckhorst needs to pull him by his training kit back right there and say, hey, you guys to time your runs. And I think that's the problem that's happening right there is that he's going free will. I mean, I get what he's trying to do right there. It reminded me a lot of like Andy Robertson when he first got to us, where he just did like this ran, or even almost like how like a John Onorisa kind of did that same type of thing right there, where you just ran through the whole thing and you just kept on running through the whole through it. Moreno kind of did it also right there, where it just ran haplessly right there. And I think until there's a good communication that's going to go between him and McAllister right there and Van Dijk in that triangle to figure out how to place those runs, I think you're going to have problems. So right now, I'd rather have Robertson back there for what I know he can do and for him to actually be a more stability. But I did want to go back on what Sir Z was saying. about Konate. A 6'4" player should not be beaten in the air, and that's the problem I have right now with Konate. He is getting beaten in the air right now, and that's inexcusable right now for his size. I mean, and for his size and his age, inexcusable. I mean, for that to happen. And you can see right there that's affecting him. It's affecting him emotionally, and he's actually going back to the Konate from 2 seasons ago, where I was like, okay, first of all, can he get 3 matches in a row to play, and will we not come there making a mistake in those matches that he does play? So, and I'm not giving a whole bunch of slack on our players and stuff like that, but I do think that right now, Konate lacking competition right there is basically feeling that he can just play however he wants to and knows he still has a starting role right there, and that's the problem right there. I mean, and I still say right there, if we brought in Gay right there and we still have that Italian kid and Gomez right there, you have a depth of 3 right there to go play besides Van Dijk at the moment. So, I mean, I'd have to make the move. If it's 30 mil, and we're not going to get anything out of this. I know I'm going to disagree with both you and Saidu, but he's basically going to walk away in 6 months, and we're getting nothing for him. And we're going to repeat the process that we've had the past couple of times with players walking away. We got to stop doing that.
So Jamie makes a good point there about Konate having to play himself into form. Is that because we're seeing with Wirtz as well? He's kind of not settling as much as we had hoped he would. Is this something we're just going to have to suffer? And the transfer thing is just a red herring right now in terms of transfers out. We should focus our efforts on Guehi and Isak, and maybe a surprise central midfielder or something like that to beef up the midfield.
You're getting greedy.
I know, seriously.
Free players.
I get 3 days off from work, and now I want Liverpool to be buying everybody. But like, do you think it's a case of we'll get a month into this from this point onwards, and then we'll sit here and say, what was Macka ever talking about letting Konate go for 30 million and 2 Mars bars and a half packet of Funyuns?
I think Konate needs to be dropped. I mean, we saw that last year when Kwanzaa was picked ahead of him, and then when he came on, we saw a different Konate, and he's an emotional player. And I think obviously, we drop him for Guehi. Obviously, he's not stupid. The talks are there, the links are there. He's on social media. He'll see it, and I think Konate is that type of emotional player that it'll affect him. And if he is dropped, he's got too much on the line not to get his head down and work hard to get back to at least the kind of form he was last season. Because there's no way he's going to try and give it this World Cup season. And if he does want to go to Madrid, they're not going to take a player that's hardly playing for us. It's in his interest to give everything he can for the club and get his head down and shake off whatever cobwebs he has between his ears and do it quick. I think with Wirtz, I think the pace of the Premier League has surprised him. I think he was so used to having so much time on the ball in Germany where he can pick his passes out and so forth. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have the luxury of time. I think the more we play Wirtz, the more he's going to get used to it. I think dropping him, it'll be. I think it'll be counterproductive. I think he needs to get used to the pace of the game. And this Arsenal game is a good acid test for him. And it'll be a good learning curve for him. And then obviously he has this 2-week break. But yeah, it's like everyone. I'm more worried about the defense more than anything else, just because the lack of depth. But this Isaac thing is just too good to pass up on, and it feels like finally everything's just coming into line. And if we don't sign Isaac this season, I dread to think that he goes to another Premier League club next season, be it Arsenal or City or wherever. Like we just need to get him.
Let's move on from the transfer thing because we're going to be talking about the Arsenal game, but let's go by way of this gentleman here, Tactics Schmactics, with his little magnet board. Now, I am not one to laugh at this, to be fair to the chap, somebody who did coaching for 20 years. Sometimes you have to visualize what it is you want to do. Some people, some coaches are very good at just talking it out and visualizing it in their head, but I'm a kind of very visual learner. I have to see the things in front of me to be able to make assessments on it. And not just like not when I coach, but in everything. I got to see like flow charts and things like that. I am an instructions reader. So I'm not going to laugh at him for that. But in terms of the whole idea of tactics, and then it related to the fact that let's look at the next slide, because this is the thing that really annoyed me about the Liverpool Newcastle game. They had 10 men for 45 minutes and outplayed us. And it looked to me from having seen the highlights, the extended highlights, and then watching the last few minutes of the actual game, and from what I read on the Discord channel, we played the game as if we were a man down and that we were protecting the 1-0 lead desperately by playing the ball and using possession instead of doing what, let's say, Jurgen Klopp would have done and just put our foot on their throats of Newcastle in the second half and just pounded them into submission and scored 4 goals on the trot or something like that. Is there anything to be said, Brian, for this over-reliance on systems and philosophies and tactics? And I don't want to sound like some sort of soccer Luddite. I am very much a fan and in love with the idea of having a way of playing. But have we gone too far with the idea that we have to play a certain way all the time? I saw a clip of John Terry saying he doesn't enjoy watching football anymore because everybody's trying to do the exact same thing and players don't seem to have the permission to read the game and see what the actual move that they need to make is. They have to do what they've practiced 107 million times on the training ground. Is there an argument to be made that coaches are having a bit too much influence and sometimes they should just let the players figure it out themselves?
Oh, absolutely. But again, like that, I mean, like John Terry, I agree kind of what John Terry says. I miss the days of seeing different sides play different formations. I mean, we got dominated by the 4-3-3 for so long right there. It's all we see play right there is 4-3-3, 4-3-3, or a variation of 4-3-3. I mean, there's no more 4-4-2s. There's no more 4-2-3-1. I mean, it's just changed so much right there now where everybody plays the same exact way. But again, I think by giving players right there a little bit of a free roll in the middle that you're able to come there is let them read the game and then play that way. I think that there are some signs to do it. And I think that Slot kind of is on that pathway of doing that. The problem is what Newcastle was smart. What they did, they swamped the midfield. And once they swamped the midfield on us right there, they basically dominated the whole center pitch. And, you know, if you dominate the center pitch, you dominate the match. And so that's basically what they did. And we had no idea how to come in there and do anything with us. I mean, we basically got overwhelmed. I mean, we were lucky to walk away with 3 points. We're very lucky to walk away with 3 points. Kind of lucky to walk away with any points right there because I really thought that in the second half, Newcastle was by far the better side. I mean, they basically put their foot on our throats. Like you said right there, we played like we were 10 men. But yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I totally think that you've lost individualism in football right there because, again, I think it goes back to the way the philosophies that they have been taught for so many years of doing certain things certain ways constantly, and you've basically created little machines and little computers right there for basically to run out there and on a pitch versus seeing somebody like a Kenny Dalglish right there who actually had individual talent that came through and just made things happen. You know, those type of players of Van Basten, you know, players like that, you don't have them anymore right there. I think the closest thing you had right there was basically was probably De Bruyne right there, in my opinion, was probably one of the closest players that just made things happen and didn't play in that same manner of being a computer and just doing a certain way. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully right there the game will get back to where you have players that can actually do talented things in there. But if we're going to keep on in the pathway of the way if every club is going to play the same exact way, you're just going to have just wars of attrition, and that's all you're going to have on a pitch.
But let me challenge you on this, though. Now, I think you assessed Newcastle's plan was to flood the midfield, but we had the man over. So my questioning of the whole thing, watching it back, was why didn't he just play over their midfield? Leave Salah up top on his own, or Ekatike, because that boy can run. Leave them up top and just let the midfield run around for Newcastle, and then just play it over the top every single time. Because then what that does is it forces them back again, which means we can get a foothold in midfield. And that's the point I'm talking about. Is like, are the coaches so obsessed with the way of playing? Because you really need everybody to read the game, because you never know who has the ball to make the telling play. But have we gone so far that coaches cannot see the wood for the trees sometimes?
Yeah, in a way, yeah, I agree with what you're saying right there. I mean, but again, it goes back to teaching kids to play a certain way, teaching all the way from being in U16 to youth level right there to play the same exact way. That this is what you do. This is what you do. Again, you're just making people doing this things on not through emotion, but you're doing it's making it mechanical now. So the game is turned into just like I said, it's a war of attrition now, basically, because both sides are playing the same exact way, and you're just a cog. Basically, you're putting somebody in the cog and say, hey, guess what? You're going to go this way to this way. You're going to go this certain 15 to 20 feet back, and then you're this way here. You're restricting your plays and stuff like that. It's almost like out there that you created like a zonal system on the pitch right there versus how you would have like zonal marking on a corner, but you create almost a zonal marking on a pitch now right there where players aren't free to go but to stay in that certain spot, and it's kind of like ruining the game in a lot of ways.
We watched Liverpool way back in the Dalglish days, where the training sessions, they were ahead of their time. People don't understand this, but the whole idea of the Shankly five-a-sides is exactly how the coaching game went about 10, 15, 20, 30 years later, where they realized, which they shouldn't have had to use any sort of studies, but they realized that players learn the game better when they're playing the actual game, even if it's in a smaller version of it. But Liverpool players of that era will always say they were never coached. They never told to do this or to do that. They were told to understand the game, like what's going on, what are the other team giving us in terms of space, or who's their danger. And I believe Graham Soon has said that under Bob Paisley, they never man-marked a player unless there was a specific danger talent that they thought they would just be so far superior to their teammates that they had to pay attention to them. But you're essentially told, if you see somebody causing problems, just sort them out. Like, just figure it out. You're nearest to him, you take him. We don't see that anymore. And as much as we talked about Slot's tactical variations during games coming up to the start of the season and throughout the entirety of last season, it was sorely lacking against Newcastle. So he may change formations, but that's not enough sometimes. Sometimes you have to change the way you're playing as well.
I think the Newcastle game, I think, is a hard one to call. I know what you're saying. I remember watching a John Barnes interview and asked him how Kenny Dalglish coached them, and he said, we never got coached. We're just told to go out and play and enjoy the game. And yeah, I think a lot of that definitely over the decades has gone. I think between Mourinho and Benitez, we've seen that go out of the game. And then
just on that though, because Alan Hansen did say before that they didn't get coached the way you would think of coaching, which would be to stop the game and say, well, you should have done this, you should be. It was essentially Ronnie Moran telling them what to do as they were playing. It was obviously coaching by osmosis. So it was never a case of them just leaving it.
They weren't micromanaged.
Yeah, micromanaged. Yeah, that's the way. Yeah, but that seems to be the way now, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's how Guardiola did it as well. And I think you see so many of these new coaches trying to emulate Guardiola because it's meant to be the best coach in the world. But I think Klopp was different, and I think that's why we saw the best attackers in the world. At the time between Mane, Salah, and Bobby, because they just did what they wanted to do. They knew what they needed to do. They knew they needed to defend and attack, and that's what Mane was key. That's what Bobby. You just never knew what you're going to get from him because he'll just turn everything on the sixpence and create, and I think that's why it was so essential that out of all the signings, Virgil and Salah signing them new extensions was key to this because they don't need to be micromanaged. They read the game so well, be it through experience or intelligence or whatever it is. They know when to make that pass. They know when to make that run and so forth. And I think, as we saw last season, I don't think the players are that micromanaged by Slot where things had to be controlled for them, like Mourinho would do and his players, or how Pep would do and his. I mean, with his, I think our players had a lot more given the chance to make their own decisions as long as it worked for us. I think there's certain players, and it takes a certain type of player to make them decisions. I don't think Kirkers will be allowed to just do whatever he wants. I think Kirkers is the type of player who, right now, he needs to be micromanaged and told, you got to stay here, you make the run there. And that's why I was surprised Robertson didn't play on Wednesday. And I think maybe I'm hoping he plays on Sunday, especially with Saka supposedly being injured, because these are the type of games where we need experience and not players that get overawed. I think with the Newcastle game, again, this is where experience comes into it. We knew it was going to be a cold run. And I think next to Anfield, the Newcastle Stadium is probably atmospherically wise and, fan wise, they're just as passionate as ours. And, they can turn a game and they can win a game for their team. And, with all the narrative between, with the Isaac situation and just Newcastle fans in general, and Liverpool Newcastle games always been the best. Probably of all the games in the Premier League, these are the best games that the Premier League have ever shown. It was just a whole cauldron of everything going against us. Then we lost McAllister. We don't have a right back. It was just a whole bunch of things going against us, a culmination. And I don't think the tactics would have helped. I think overall, trying to overrun that midfield, we didn't have enough midfielders to overrun that midfield.
But that's the point I'm making, though. If you don't have it, you don't play the same way. We insisted on playing the same way,
right? Yeah.
So if you don't have a if you build your team, your attacks on crossing the ball into a 6'5" centre forward like Ireland did, let's say with Niall Quinn, Frank Stapleton, and Tony Cascarino, and those players aren't there, and you're stuck with 5'6" David Kelly, you don't keep crossing the ball in. You got to figure something different out.
Yeah.
But we can be persistent in trying to play the same game, and it wasn't working. That's the point. I was really disappointed in not recognizing that, because that's something you would recognize at schoolboy level. We don't have the players to do the thing we normally do, so let's not do the thing we normally do. And that's what I'm saying is like, even the players need freedom to sort the game out, but the managers seem to just be obsessed with philosophy rather than tactics. And in terms of, we had the man advantage. You shouldn't be losing a 2-goal lead with 45 minutes to go with a man advantage, really, should you?
Oh, that's a Liverpool, wasn't it? I mean, we've seen it over and over again, and it's not surprising. You knew when we were 2 up. I knew they were going to come back 2-2. Whether we had 10 men or 9 men, it was just. It's a Liverpool Newcastle.
I mean, if they had 9 men, we probably would have lost the 4-2.
Probably. It was just, and we've shown. I mean, even if 10 men, even when we've been down to 10 men, it is harder to play against 10 men, because now you're playing low block. You're playing, the fact that we even went up 2-0 was a surprise. Even a surprise to Slot, because he wasn't even there to see the second goal. So it's. I think that game was an anomaly, and again, it's just typical Liverpool. A fairy tale ending with a 16-year-old coming off the bench, scoring a goal. It's just another game that goes down as a legendary game for us, and that is why we are Liverpool fans. Like, no other team can produce what we produce. With goals like Alisson scoring in the last minute, or Divock Origi scoring in the last minute, and it's just one of the things. I just think the Newcastle game, I'm was probably one of the toughest games we were going to play this season. We got out of the way and we got free. We came away with it unscathed, no injuries, thank God. 3 points, and we just move on, and it's done and dusted, and we don't have to play him again.
But just before I go to you, Brian, I just want to, like Jamie makes the point there, you don't resort to hook ball, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is if you have a spare man, use the spare man in this, like especially if they've got pace, and exactly what Jamie says there, need to use the open man quicker. We didn't do that. We slowed the game right down, didn't we?
We did. And that's what kind of play I was going to make it. Why didn't it take us to the 93rd minute to go through and actually do what we should have done? Probably like when like the 46th, 47th, 48th minute, we moved the ball. If you look at the movement, the opposite right there of how that goal got produced right there for Rio right there, you would see that how many passes that were made through there. It was something like 27, I think. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it started right behind the halfway line and moved its way through the entire thing. We came through and moved the ball the whole time. I mean, and we made runs. We did things with there. That's the only thing you have to do. You get down to 10 men, you stretch, and they stretched them, and that's how you got that goal, by stretching them. And so I agree with what Jamie said right there. Don't play hoofball. Come in there and outplay them. Stretch them. Go in there, make them come in there, make fouls, make them stretch themselves to go to different spots right there. You take them out of their positioning right there to score goals. We didn't do that. We kind of folded in. We basically got the second goal and just said, hey, let's go sit back right there and hang out with a 2-goal lead and see what happens. And what happened was they pressed us with their midfield, and they came there and scored goals. And they scored 2 goals right there to come in there to tie it up. And again, 2 mistakes that happened in the game again right there to call us a lot of that stuff right there again. I mean, there's things that need that, it's a lot of discipline right now at like that. I know it's you're only sitting on the second match right now, but there's like preseason discipline things that seem like they didn't really click right there. And one of them is like that right now is leaking goals. I mean, and there's serious problems right now with how our midfield is talking back to our center halves of how this is happening. I know we haven't had Gravenberg the entire time or McAllister the entire time, but you still have to have viable options at midfield that can actually go and actually communicate with your center halves at the same time. And I think that communication is definitely off at the moment.
Yeah, just a point, like on that point though, this is what I'm talking about. Was we had 62% possession and they had more shots and more corners and more crosses. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not about it, we persisted in playing that short passing game in the middle instead of doing what you said, stretching the game. But the way you do that is longer passes and making the team with 10 men run more.
Yes.
So that they're more exhausted by the 70th minute. And it just for me, it just disappointed me that we did, like, Slot can say what he wants about there was no tactics in the game, but there was no tactics in the game because he didn't do the tactics in the game. He just watched it happen. Like after he came back from his extra long poop at halftime. And if I was one of his assistants, the first question I was asked, did you wash your hands before you gave me a high five, son? But nevertheless, let's move on to the game of the weekend because it extends into that now. This is my concern would be that this is a superior opponent than Newcastle in terms of maybe quality, but also a very tricky and difficult opponent because they play the attritional game. They're quite happy to defend, they're quite happy to rely on set pieces so far. They've made some very astute boys in the transfer market over the last few weeks. I'm not as confident of getting a win out of this as maybe other people are. In fact, I think we may lose it, but convince me otherwise.
I don't think we'll lose it. And given the choice right now, I'll take a draw right now. Obviously, depending on how the game goes, and obviously, if we're battering them and I'll get a call against us and we cheated out of the win, then obviously I'll be pissed. But yeah, I mean, again, it feels like another game of going into it as an underdog, and I think that's only just because we have Konate playing, and I think given the right personnel playing on Sunday, this game should be a formality for us. Just mainly because I don't. If Saka is injured and if Odegaard is injured, then it really should just be a formality for us. But again, it all depends on the personnel that are playing on Sunday. I wouldn't play Kirkes at all, or bring him on the second half. I think the fact that Saka doesn't play, I'll definitely have Robertson start. He's going to start most probably. But again, we keep saying, and we said it last year, that the games are won and lost in midfield, and that midfield needs to protect our defense and also need to start our attack. It'll be a good game for the neutral, I think. Nervous for me and Brian, and for you, I guess you've got a day off so you can watch the game. It's going to be absolutely nerve-wracking, and Arteta's going to be getting on my nerves. But it's a 6 point already, and it's a must-win game. At the very least, a draw would do us okay, but a draw at Anfield still feels like a loss to Arsenal.
Brian, it is given that City lost against Spurs, given that Chelsea seem to be already feeling the effects of the Club World Cup exertions. This is an early enough game that we could set a marker down. Now, Arsenal beat United, but United were the better team on the day for a long parts, and maybe Amorim left his Subbuteo board at home that day for some reason and didn't have to use it. But nevertheless, a win at Anfield against Arsenal this early in the season, given how badly we've defended, but still managed to get points, it would be a major throwdown to the rest of the league that Liverpool are still around, and rumors of our demise have been very, very premature. I don't know why there's rumors about our demise at all. 2 games in, but that defensive work, it's the one thing that worries, isn't it? Because I think we have enough in the front end of the field to hurt Arsenal. But it feels like a Brendan Rodgers kind of a game almost, doesn't it? You could get the 3 goals and you're going to lose 4-3.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm hoping that we both have Gravenberch and McAllister back right there, and I think that may be a different result right there with them. And I think this last match would have been a bit against Newcastle would have been different with McAllister being back there. I think it would have changed a lot of things, a lot of the stress they went through with that midfield. Now, with Arsenal right there, 3 key injuries right there: Odegaard, Saka, and Gabriel. Those are 3 pretty enormous injuries right there that on their side right there. I mean, I think that, I don't rate Gyökeres right there. I mean, I think that we've all kind of came to that conclusion right there on here with them. I don't see Arsenal coming there really producing a lot of goals without having Odegaard and Saka there. I think that's a big, big percentage of their thing. Now, is they coming there right there? I mean, it's definitely a big up for them right there. I think that gives you a lot of speed and it gives you a lot of tactical ability with them. But this is marking of like a 1-1. 2-2 kind of match right there, won it right there. I mean, and maybe even us nicking it at the end right there kind of match right there. But I don't see a clear cut like actual a side that's way above the other side at the moment right now. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a good match to watch. I think it's going to be a pretty up and up match. I just don't see how it's just going to be how the dice fall in there. And I think that basically right there that it's looking to be like a draw in this match.
So see, Brian obviously doesn't have the same cardiologist that me and you do. I'm not seeing this as being a very entertaining game. I'm seeing this as being a very nerve-wracking game. And Mr. Batterd says the Isak and Valen right before the game puts 2-0. I mean, we can dream, but it would be a massive boost to confidence, wouldn't it, knowing that we've got, probably the best natural number 9 in English football right now. Locked up and signed up and ready to get working. But nevertheless, if we can put the attention on that guy, they may forget about the big, tall, lanky guy that's scoring all the goals right now.
Oh, yeah. And it's a kid, he just looks so unfazed. He just, for a guy just coming in and new league, and he just looks so cool. And what I like about him is just even his post-match interviews, he's just so humble. He just talks about what he needs to do to improve the game. And even when he won the man of the match last, against Bournemouth, it's like he always felt embarrassed to take it. It's like he had to come off in 60 minutes, and he was just talking about what he could improve. And those are the type of players that we want, and there's a reason why we did go for him. It's not just numbers on the board. That's just a Liverpool way of doing things. We look at their upbringing, we look at where they're from, we look at all this other thing, or everything, all the intangibles that you can't see on a data sheet, and he just fits right into that Liverpool type of player, where it's just like he just gets it, and this is what he wants, and he's become an instant hit already with the fans, which is great. It'd be great if he can get Isak done and Gay done before Sunday. Even if we get them done, I think they'll be too late to be in the squad. But just that boost for the fans, and I think the game itself, I think Arteta will take a draw. I think he'll come and take a draw. Just as he's not going to want to concede. They haven't conceded yet this season. And he'll see a draw for him will be a point gain for him, and I think it'll be a 2 points loss for us.
Let me ask you this though, Suzy, because it may become important in the game on Sunday. We talk about Ekitike, he's like taken to the whole thing like a duck to water, but isn't he not coming from the same league as Wirtz?
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a contrast, isn't it? That one, the more talented player on paper is struggling with the pace of the game, whereas the big, lanky, tall guy that you'd probably think was like the German Niall Quinn reincarnated is actually killing it right now. Like, he looks like he's played there for years and years and years, and it's such a crapshoot, isn't it? How players will react to moves like that, even when they're clearly well talented.
Yeah, I think with Wirtz, obviously, it's got a big, heavy price tag on him. I don't know whether that phases him or not. I don't know. But I think they're both expected to do very different jobs. I think Wirtz is more tightly controlled marking, and some things are coming off for him. Some things aren't coming off for him. And I think with Wirtz, there's a lot more players that he needs to get used to being around him. So he's got to get used to the midfielders around him. They've got to get used to him as well as the attackers. Whereas Ekitike he just needs to get the ball. And he runs back, he defends and so forth. But yeah, it's, it's what makes everyone different. It's like I say, he was a surprise. I think out of all the transfers that have happened this summer, like every club, I think he's probably the buy of the season so far. And he just gets on with his job, and he's just so unfazed. You saw the Newcastle players trying to rile him up, and he just took it in his stride. He didn't care. He didn't react. Unlike a number of another striker that we had that would have headbutted at least two of them before missing like 10 shots. He just doesn't care. He does what he needs to do. He gets his job done, and he's all good.
Yeah, Brian. In terms of the left side, I would have no issues trusting Rio Ngamoha with more than 4 minutes play. We're going to assume Gakpo starts on that side.
Yeah.
And even though he scored against Newcastle so far, he hasn't lit the world. We haven't seen him hit his stride like we know he can hit his stride. If you were Liverpool manager, would you be thinking ahead to that and go, Rio is running on massive confidence right now. So if we need a change at 70, I'm not going to do anything weird. Like I'm not going to do anything normal. I'm actually going to throw him on for 20 minutes because I think he can handle it. What do you reckon?
I can't. I mean, I can't right there. I think the problem right there is right there. I see if you come there and throw that kid in so young right there and give him all this the weight on his shoulder, you're looking at right there with players like that you've seen that happened to them, like happened to. I mean, I'll throw out Raheem Sterling. I think Raheem Sterling basically came through and had the weight on his shoulders right there when he came over to our side, because I think his first match he started was, I mean, yeah, Rio's 17 now. I mean, Sterling's first match started was when he was 18 years old, I think, when he was in that SAS, that whole thing that we were in right there. So I think if you come there and throw a player into that, I think he's not ready for it mentally yet. 16 years old versus 28-year-old men, it's a different thing. I mean, right there. I mean, they go on a pitch. I mean, 10 minutes to go, sure. But I can't with 20 minutes to go. Maybe 5 minutes to go if I need to come there and throw a gamble out there, maybe. But I think if you're just going to put too much pressure on that kid, honestly, he should probably come there and want to be in the U21, playing for the U21s, U23s, right there, more so, and getting matches that right there and getting himself better that way. I mean, to me, right there, I would still stick with having Gabco come there, run all the way to where you need him to. And then if you need another option, you have Harvey out there. You have other players. You have Chiesa you can put on there. I would pick them before I pick Rio again.
Let me say this though, even though he's considered one of the best players ever, Pele won the World Cup in a much rougher time playing football with no shin guards at 17.
True.
Johan Cruyff won Ajax the league at 18. And started. Are we wrapping players in cotton wool these days? Because it's ultimately it's a sport. It's a game. We're not asking them to save lives.
I mean, I definitely see what you're saying right there, but I also because they look at even Wayne Rooney's projection with what happened to him. By the time he was 25, he was already playing like a 30-some-year-old right there. His body was broke down right there. I mean, again, right there, it also goes to the point right there where I think the pace and of the game is so different from what Pele played right there, where it was a lot more slower pace, a lot more setup, a lot more things like that. The Premier League's intense. I mean, right there, and I think that's not the same exact game right there that you saw from 71 or when Pele was coming there and playing. It's a total different match.
But is 20 minutes going to ruin his career?
I don't think it's going to ruin his career right there, but I also think you're also throwing a lot of pressure on that kid to perform right there, and I think that's something right there that could be detrimental to his development.
Let me ask. I've got to throw it to Suzy because I know he's into sports psychology a lot. And you guys know I love you to bits, but I fundamentally disagree with Brian there because I think it comes down to the player in terms of the mentality stuff, doesn't it? And what their support network is. We can. I would agree with Brian if I was saying, let's play him instead of Gakpo every game. I think all of Brian's concerns would be within 3 games. We'd be talking about that kid was great for 3 games, wasn't he? And then he's selling newspapers down the road because his knees blown out, and he's on the drink. But I mean, the player he wasn't picked up off the street. He's been in the academy system for a long time, and he's been prepared for this moment. Do you think if the player himself is eager and confident to play 20-minute cameos instead of injury time cameos, is it detrimental to throw them in such a high pressure game like this? If there's somebody who displays external and internal confidence.
No, I mean, I think if you're good enough, you're old enough. But I think with this Rio kid, and even with the other Arsenal 15-year-old, who looks a really good player, he I think with them two, the concerns would be more the physical, long-term physical aspects than the mental. There's a reason why this kid hasn't gone on loan, and there's a reason why Slot is included him in our squad, because he has something. And and if the rumors are true, and these videos that Liverpool made disappear about him embarrassing a certain defender, and I don't think it's a snake, because I think someone's come out, it wasn't a snake that it was embarrassing. This kid's got something about him, and you can tell in his confidence. Like, you look at him and you look at Nioni. Nioni looks a little bit more passive, a bit more reserved. where maybe something could knock his confidence. But this Rio kid, he just looks fearless. He gets the ball, and he is like he's got a point to prove. Every time he gets that ball, he's got a point to prove, and he just wants to do something. And you can just tell that first, that his goal, he didn't think twice. He didn't take that first touch. He just went. He knew what he was going to do. He knew where he was going to place it.
I just want to make a point that was mentioned earlier, which I can't find the quote now, but there it was from Alan. It was the kind of composure we wished Nunez would have had, isn't it? Wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like he's just mentally, maybe he hasn't had any setbacks mentally where he's had to overcome it, and that's why he's like riding on clouds right now. But he just looks like mentally he feels like he can take on the world, and I think we have to hold him back just for his physical. I mean, we saw what happened to Michael Owen, where we just played him, and we over relied on him to the point where we completely destroyed his hamstrings. Fortunately, we don't have to do that with this kid because we have players that are world-class players where we don't have to rely on this kid. But I think games like this will only help him, especially if you're winning or whatever. Like bringing him into big games like this will just help his confidence, in my opinion, and just give him the taste for what it's like. And yeah, we're not going to play him week in, week out. We're not. It'd be crazy to do that. But there's a reason why we didn't send him on loan as well, and we kept him. And we just let McConnell go on loan this season because we knew we're not going to use him. But this kid, I think we're going to use. And that goal against Newcastle was amazing. I think the only thing that would have bettered that is if Joe Gomez scored that. I think that's the only thing that would have bettered that goal. But yeah, no, like I said, if you're good enough, you're old enough. We just need to be mindful of this, just physically. I think it's mentally. I think he'll be fine.
There's two players.
Just before you start, Brian, I just want to point out to this Man United fan: the answer is drink lots and lots of alcohol. Is the answer to that question? Go ahead, Brian.
I don't have a whole hour right there to answer Kizo's question right there, but my biggest thing right there is I don't want another Jordan Ibe or a Shea Ocho again right there, and those are players right there who I highly rated right there. I thought were actually going to make a lot of progress, and I still want those that to happen to this kid because I think this kid is a phenomenal talent right there, and I think those are and I'm in a mindset right there where you nurture talent, and I think that you have to go there and let that kid work his way back up, work his way to being in that ability. Does the kid have the ability to go there to put in a 10-minute shift right now in a match? Absolutely. Does he not have? But I still think that going and putting too much weight on this kid right there, it could crush the kid right there. And I mean, again, he's 17 years old, and I know I get your point, which you guys are saying right there. If you have the ability to do it right there, but also right there, it's more than just that, right? Than just having the ability. It's actually a well-rounded player right there. And I think that if you put too much on that kid that could probably kill that kid's whole trajectory.
Just I want to point out, I'm technically a well-rounded player as well, Brian. So we don't want that kind of well-roundedness. Go ahead.
But it's funny. I don't know that Man United fan comes in. I mean, look at Giggs, 17-year-old, and he came into the Premier League, and the Premier League was hard back then. Them defenders weren't messing around. You're playing against players like Tony Adams and Steve Bold, and them defenders, they weren't taking prisons, Giggs did it, and he had a long career, and I'm not trying to compare this Rio kid to Giggs, and he might even be better. Like I'm not saying obviously playing week in, week out, but games like this, I think will be, if he obviously you don't start him in the second half, but even like 15, 20 minutes, just to give him that game time, and even then just to show this kid, look, we believe in you, the manager believes in you. You showed your worth against Newcastle the other day. You got your goal. Just let him enjoy enjoy it, and obviously play him and then rein him back in. It's not like he's going to come knocking on Stott's door. Oh, well, why aren't you playing me this week? Whatever. He knows. He knows. He's got to earn his spot physically and whatever. But yeah, we don't need to rely on him, but we also need to give him what he earns.
I think though he won't be able to be knocking on Stott's doors because Chiesa will be right in front of him doing
it. I mean, start the kid when we play Southampton in the Carabao Cup. Start him there. I definitely think that we should start in that match right there. But I just think that again, wean him to there. But real quick, that kid thing right there for that Manchester United supporter. Fucking sell Fernandez. That's your biggest problem. Get rid of him, and I think you'll have a lot better luck.
Not that I want to end our show tonight on giving Manchester United fans advice. So before we wrap it all up, Brian and Susie, I'm sure the lads on tomorrow's morning coffee show will have a more in-depth lineup preview. But give us your score prediction for this Sunday as it stands now, Brian.
2-2, 2-1, somewhere in that little ballpark right there. I mean, I think that we can nick it late right there. I think, but more or less right there, I could see I could see it being a draw. But I think that we have a good chance of nicking it at late, kind of like we did against Newcastle. But because I think it's going to be actually a little more competitive match.
So what's the score prediction?
Yeah, I think this has a 2-2 written all over it.
I'm going to say 3-2 Arsenal.
Nunes hat-trick.
With a Nunes hat-trick, though, for Liverpool. So with that said, and obviously, as it happens every week, a big thank you to Brian and Susie for joining us tonight and giving up their time, unlike that ne'er-do-well Cozzy who fell asleep, apparently. Yeah, we're not letting you get away with it, son. We're not letting you get away with it.
Too much golf.
Wait, Cozzy's up here. Wait, is there behind me?
And you just we'll make sure you watch the morning coffee show. Keep an eye out for announcements for maybe a watch along or a pre-match and post-match on Sunday for the Arsenal game, and maybe a watch along on Saturday for one of the Saturday Premier League games. But everybody who's commented tonight, it's been one of the busiest nights we've had. It's fantastic. We love to see it. Keep it going. Not just on this show, but on all of the American Scouser TV shows. All of the likes and hearts and hugs, etc. on Facebook. We appreciate that as well. If you want to slip us three lads some money for our Turkish hair transplants, we'd be happy with that too.
It won't go to that.
I'm getting curly hair. I don't know what you guys are getting. And for everybody else, we will see you. But if you want to know when we're going to be seeing you, follow us on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and X and Blue Sky and Mastodon and so many other social media things that even the ones Taylor Swift doesn't know anything about. Just get on it. Get liked and subscribed, and know what's happening next, because we want to see more and more of people chatting and commenting during our shows. Brian and Susie, have a fantastic weekend. We will see everybody soon. Here's some funky music to send you on your way to Betty Boys. Aww.